CJ, we should get to some other NHL news and notes before we get to Ask CJ at the end of our show. I'd like to start in Edmonton. It doesn't look good, man. Just, I'll be blunt with you, it does not look good. They lose 5-3 against the Florida Panthers. I mean, I think we've long past hit the panic button with this organization, but the more they don't seem like they're riding their own ship, the more it really looks like that they're not going to make the playoffs. I think Colby Armstrong on Sportsnet yesterday said that they're on like a 53-point pace. Like it's not looking good for the Edmonton Oilers. At least that's my assessment of it. What do you see out of that team?
Well, look, they need to get some saves, and I know there's a little bit more to it than that. I mean, you see, now Connor McDavid had a pretty good game in Florida despite a loss, but he and Leon Draisaitl have not been their typical selves in terms of goal and point production, and so that's definitely a factor of where they're at. But they're just allowing too many against, and this is a team I know has worked the trade wire pretty hard already this year, looking to see what they might be able to do at the goaltending position. They've already sent Jack Campbell to the American Hockey League. They brought up Calvin Pickard, who played the game against the Panthers. Stuart Skinner has struggled. So, I think that they're looking to see if there's anything they can do to, from a management level to improve the roster there. But I'm with you. I mean, the hard part in the league when you get it going the wrong way, it can be hard to get it back momentum wise, right? And they've dug a pretty big hole. I mean, I'm not going to at this point come out and say they aren't going to make the playoffs or they can't make the playoffs. I think that they can, but it's going to take a dramatic turnaround, and it's going to take them turning into a dominant team almost immediately, because they would have to play at 100 plus point pace in order to get the points necessary. So I think it's clearly a challenging time to Edmonton. You see it in the body language of Connor McDavid's post-game interviews, the fact that they did make the coaching change. I just think that they've endured a lot, and we're not even to December, and they're way, way back in the standings. And so, I don't know what more can be said other than I think finding a way to keep the puck out of their net has to be priority number one. As much as we can focus on where McDavid and Draisaitl are in the scoring race and how it's not where we're used to seeing them, having to click down a page or two on NHL.com to find their names. I think ultimately the reason they haven't won more games is just with how many pucks have gone in their net.
I forgot who made the point on Twitter, but they were looking at a screenshot from that post-game availability with McDavid, and they just commented on how worn out he looks. And it's like we're at the 3/4 mark of the season.
3/4.
So
We're not even
backstory.
20 games into an 82 game season, right?
So here's the thing. Like I say 3/4 mark because apparently if you say quarter pole, like that's like the wrong thing. It's like a horse term.
Horse racing thing, right?
Yeah, like if you say quarter pole, that's supposed to be like you've gone 3/4 of the way through. So
Well, you nearly twisted my travel logged brain into a pretzel there with like 3/4. I'm like, didn't the year just start?
No, it's just, you know what? Forget it. Yeah, I was just trying to appease horse people with the verbiage. I'm sorry.
I'll say this. We're not even 25% of the way into the season. And what you're saying is true. Is you're seeing, there's just a lot has happened there, right? And look, the season is a grind. There could be great days ahead. It's not as though I think there's a danger of being too much of a prisoner of the moment and being like, oh, he's fried, or something like that. I mean, clearly a toll has been taken with the way the years began. McDavid himself made it clear he didn't want to see a head coaching change. So that, and there's parts of that it would be hard for us to understand. And it's not about the individuals in this case. It's like you get a new boss midway through the year, right? It just, all of a sudden the expectations change. Maybe the patterns change, the meeting schedules change. Like all of a sudden you don't have what you would call a routine with that person. And both sides, it's challenging for the head coach. Of course, it's challenging for the players. And so I think that there's an element of that. All the losing takes its toll. Obviously the media is pretty, the spotlight's pretty bright in Edmonton on that team. And so they're dealing with a lot of questions, and yeah, there's just a lot of shit.
Those damn Mark Spector questions. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mark's been front and center. Whether it was the question of Jay Woodcroft in San Jose after they lost the game or the one in Florida, which I think, even by his own admission, probably came out the wrong way or didn't come out in a way that befitted the moment. And look, I've been around a team. I've done the day-to-day cover a team every single day thing, and I asked all kinds of questions I wish I didn't, or they just didn't come out right. And so I'm going to be the last guy that sits here and says, how dare someone, say do that. I mean, look,
it's also just bad form. Like, just we don't need to do that for him.
Right, but I'm saying here, I'm not even defending. Well, I am defending him in a sense, but like, when you're every day there asking questions, it is just as hard as being every day there answering questions, because sometimes when you answer them and you're tired or you're frustrated, it comes out the wrong way in an answer. Sometimes when you're asking them, it's just like your brain is, I'm just saying, it's really easy to sit way back at home and be well rested and watch the games on TV and say, how could this person do this or that? I mean, look, it's everyone's right. But when you're kind of in the battle, and that's what it's like when you're covering a team every single day, it's just, I'll tell you, it's a dream job, but it's freaking hard. And I did it for 6 or 7, 8 years in a row with the Leafs, where I went to every game, every practice, traveled, didn't sleep. I have a lot of respect for the people, men and women, that do that around the league. And there's a lot of them that have done it 20 years running. You know what I mean? Now that I've stepped into more of a national role, I'm not doing that same kind of work, but it's not always glamorous, and sometimes you screw it up. And anyway,
I've hung around you at work. It's a lot of working. You work a lot. You move around a lot.
Well, I mean, look I understand that there's someone out there willing to take my job too, so I want to do it well. And plus, I love it. I got to say, I love it. I made the point a little bit when we talked about Sweden, but it was just so cool to be able to bump into so many people in one place. Yeah. That was kind of my point, because I love the bump in, and just picking up tidbits of information, and anyway, I'm getting off track here, but
that's okay.
I'm just saying that it's really easy to sit on the sidelines and say, why would you ask this question? Because generally speaking, it's not a good job. It's not a fun job when you're the reporter going into a room where the team's lost as many games as the Oilers have lost, is all I'm saying. You're trying to find a new way to discuss things. You're trying to get honest answers, and it's a delicate time. It's usually kind of a little bit almost awkward in those sorts of rooms. Obviously, there's a lot of frustration, all those sorts of things. And so I'm just saying, it's not as easy as it looks from the outside.